Let's make the car move now. To do that, we will need a script. So we can collapse this, and in our assets folder, right click, create new folder to stay a bit organized, and say scripts. Right click and create a C# script. This will be responsible with the movement of the car, so I'll name it player controller. Okay, and you can see in the right side on the inspector a preview of the script. Now, similar what we did with the materials, we will have to apply this script to the object that we want. So that will be our car. Simply drag and drop it. And now if we click on our car, we can see that the player controller script is applied. If we hit play, we can see that nothing is happening. And you can see that the view changed when I hit play. So let's cover that first. Hit play again, it stops. You saw that it changes the view. That's because our scene view is different than our game view. You see here we have scene and game. The game view will show you what the player will see when the game starts, or rather when the game plays. So if we want to see both of them, we can drag the game view and place it here. I'll move it up a bit, say about here. So now we can see what the game view is and the scene view. We can modify what we want in the scene view, but we can't change anything in the game view. This one is non-editable. Let's talk a bit about where does the game view come from. You can see we have our main camera right here, and we have it in the scene. We can't really see it in the game view because that's what our view is. If we move here, right on the camera, almost, you can see it's the same view. So bear in mind that the main camera is responsible to our view. If I move it right, you can see the game view changes too. On the left, the same. Up and down. So the main camera gives us the game view. Okay? Let's move it a bit closer. You can see here there is a square. You can see it right there. So that is our game view. Now, let's say that we want to change it to this view. A quick way to align the game view with the scene view, we have it on the game object, align with view. And there is a shortcut Ctrl+Shift+F. But in order to work, you have to have selected the main camera. You can do that with any object, but mostly you'll use it with the main camera. Ctrl+Shift+F, and there we go. It's the same view. Now I'm going to undo that, Ctrl+Z, because I want to see the road ahead. Let's go back to our script that we made earlier, the player controller, and open it. So double click. This will open Visual Studio. This is the integrated development environment that gets installed with Unity. by default. So that's the IDE that you get for short. I'm not gonna explain everything that is in this script. All you have to remember for now is that we will take it step by step. So for now, what we will work in is the update method. You can see here, this is a comment, this is not the code. So this green line with a double slash, it's a commentary. We can write whatever we want here. This is a good practice to have when you are writing code, just so you remember what it's being done in this method, let's say. So for now, in the update, we will put some code to make the car move. But before we do that, let's go back to Unity and select our car. Let's try to visualize what we want to do first, so we can understand better what code we have to write. With the car selected, we see in the inspector that we have our transform component, which is responsible with the position of our car. If we move the Z, the car moves forward and backwards. So we see that on positive Z number, the car is moving forward. That's exactly what we want to do. Let's reset it and let's go back to our script. In Unity, because we are using the monoBehavior class, which is specific to Unity, we have some predefined components, let's say, or other functions, methods, how you want to call them. And that transform that we saw earlier in the inspector is one of them. So if we write transform, and you can see this is why we use the IDE, because we can write this, all this code in a notepad, in a .doc or .txt file, and it would work the same. The difference is that in Visual Studio or any other IDE, you get some benefits, and that is, as you see here, you get this autocomplete, or rather the suggestion. As soon as I write a few letters, I'm getting some suggestions of what it can be. So that makes coding faster and easier. More than that, with this selection, we get some information on the side right here. It's saying transform component dot transform, the transform attached to this game object. So the transform attached to this game object, to our car. Now you see that I exited and it disappeared. Transform, and if I hit dot, now we get some functions as well, or properties, functions, depends what this contains, but mostly it's functions, methods, and we want a position. Okay, so now we are accessing the position of our car, because this script is attached to our car. And what we want with the position, we want just the Z value to increase. So we'll say equals transform dot position. That is saying our position is the same, plus, so we want to increase it. And now we can see that our position has 3 values, because it has 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. So that would be a vector 3 in code. So we'll say new vector 3, open parentheses, and now we see that the first one is x, second y, and then we have the z. Oops. Okay, so we want 0 on the x, 0 on the y, and let's say 1 on the z. Now you saw that I placed a semicolon at the end, because if I don't, you see this red squiggly thing is saying that it's expecting a semicolon. So each line of code that we want to be executed, it has to end with a semicolon. This is the way the computer reads the code. Okay, so now we save, Ctrl S, and let's go back to Unity. Let's see what we did. So before we applied our code, we saw that nothing was happening when we hit play. Now let's hit play. And we see that our car is gone. It's moving forward, but at a very high speed. Even though we put 1. Imagine if we put 10 or 100. Now, that's because of how update works. So we have here a reference that is saying update is called once per frame. Now, depending on your computer, you get a lot of frames per second. So let's say if you have 60 frames per second, that would be 1 times 60. In order to have a constant speed, let's say we want 1 per second, we have to multiply this value by time dot delta time, and we can use the autocomplete by pressing enter. Okay, let's save and back into Unity. Let's see how the car moves now. If we hit play, you can see it's moving very slowly now. So that's good. We have a bit of control over our car speed. Now, I haven't mentioned this yet, but it's a good practice to save your project from time to time, just in case Unity crashes or your computer restarts for whatever reason, or if you have a power surge. So while you're in Unity, you can use the Ctrl S and it will save. When you make any changes, just so you know if you saved or not, let's say I'm gonna move this car a little bit. You can see that we have here this asterisk sign. When we save, Ctrl S, it disappears. That way we know that it's saved or not.